Hey, Don, now your clock's right. Did you reset it?
Okay, we're all set. We're live on YouTube.
Okay, thank you, Annette.
Yep.
Yes, I'll call this administration committee to order. Is Commissioner Majerick, is he present?
Yes.
Okay, so all committee members are present.
Jim, we have to do a roll call, please.
I know, I'm getting there. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Curran,
I am here.
Majerick,
Yes.
Hugel,
Here.
Meeks.
Here.
You have 4 present.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of August 20th, 2020.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Meeks, make that motion.
Second.
Well, Mike, you can do it. I can second whatever.
Ever. Yep.
Okay,
Motion by Majerick and support by Meeks. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay, Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Curran,
Yes.
Majerick,
Yes.
Hugel,
Yes.
Meeks.
Yes.
You have 4 yeas.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, we have a couple of resolutions, and I'll either go to Paul or Brian, whoever's going to lead that discussion.
Okay, if I could just say real quick here, so while the conversation's happening in the boardroom, for those of you that are on Zoom, if you're not speaking, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself, I'm sorry. We're getting a lot of breakup in the communications. We had a little problem with that earlier today too. So if you're not speaking and you're on Zoom, please mute yourself. And then, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. So members of the committee, we've got Paul here today. He's got several items that I just wanted the committee to be aware of. And I've asked Paul to try and condense his comments, just recognizing that some of you are planning to get down to the groundbreaking at 2 o'clock. So please forgive us if we move quickly.
So Paul, the first one is your resolution with Jean, and it's the contract with the social workers.
Sure.
That's the first one, and that's resolution 321.
Thank you. So, good afternoon. This particular position is one that the Family Division has proposed, funded by a federal grant that Ms. Lawrence can speak to. The funding will be, as I understand it, has been approved for the next fiscal year coming up here in October. And the idea is to increase the level of representation for protective proceedings, family, the parent attorney. The social worker is intended to be independent of the court and work with the parent attorney on the protective proceedings contract, really a separate contract, but work with the parents with the goal of reunification, hopefully earlier reunification between parents and children that have jurisdiction taken over them by the court, and also a higher percentage of reunification. This is a model that's been used in other jurisdictions. Our family division, which has a reputation of excellence across the state, wants to take this step and provide the parent attorneys with this added level of support. Social worker is intended to assist the parents with substance abuse issues, housing issues, employment issues, mental health counseling issues, assisting the parents in navigating these social service agencies, and really serving as a go-between between the parent and those agencies in ways that perhaps an attorney might not necessarily be. Sometimes the clients might have some barriers in dealing with their attorney on these issues. The social worker is going to be more available. It's important that it's independent from the court. It was discussed having these social workers within the courthouse, and the concern would be that the parents, there might be a level of distrust in being forthright with the social worker. So that's the overall plan. And perhaps Ms. Lawrence could speak to the issue of funding if there are any questions on that, and I certainly be happy to answer any questions.
Is this a renewal or is this something new?
This is brand new. This is pursuant to a federal grant that has been sought and received by the Family Division.
Okay, then the social workers, they become county employees or they're contracted employees?
These are the independent contractors.
Okay, thank you.
The funding-
Any other questions from the
Sorry.
committee members?
The funding for that is actually the other resolution that we have listed below it. So the 322 resolution is to apply for the money that we really kind of already know we have coming, and Jane, you can type in if you need to here, or vice or something else. And then that is what then authorizes us to do the contracts with the social workers. So those two are directly related.
Okay, is Jean Lawrence present and does she want to comment?
Yes, I'm here. This is the grant that we applied for last year and received. As Annette pointed out, it's one of those grants where we already know how much money we're going to get. It's a reimbursement of a percentage of the contract attorney fees that we pay, so we get from this grant, we get about $130,000 a year. The way we spend that money is subject to approval by the state Department of Health and Human Services. And the idea of using a social worker in partnership with the parent's attorney is an approved use of his funds. It's a very exciting program that we're really excited about implementing. So.
Okay, maybe that's where I got the impression of renewal. We got this grant last year, so this is
Right.
renewal
Yep,
grant.
right.
And how did you use it? How did you spend it previous?
Well, we surely didn't spend it all. We have 4 projects that we're doing with this money. The social workers with the parent's attorney is one, and we weren't able to get that off the ground we didn't start getting the money till January. So the second project is trying to see if we can implement a parent partner program in Berrien County, which is a program where peers mentor our parents through dependency proceedings. We've been doing some research and background work on that and paid an independent contractor for that work. The third thing we are to use this money for is trainings, and that sort of, the wheels fell off that bus in the middle of March, so we haven't been able. And then the fourth thing we do is we pay attorneys to represent some of our parents in what we call ancillary proceedings. So you might have a child dependency proceeding where if you could just get a guardianship set up, the neglect abuse case would be finished. And so we use some of the money to pay private attorneys to do some of that ancillary work that will help us resolve a dependency proceeding.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee members? Okay, not hearing any. I assume these 2 resolutions will move forward then, correct?
Yeah, so then mine to take that, then I have the administration committee's permission to attach their names to these resolutions.
Okay, do you need formal action from us in that, or we just move these forward?
I'm sorry, what was your question? You broke up.
Do we need to take formal action on these 2 resolutions, or they just go forward?
No, we don't need a motion or anything on them. I just need to know if you're okay for me putting your names on them, and then they will be scheduled for September 10th and will be approved by the full board.
Okay, very good, thank you. Not hearing any, those 2 resolutions will move forward. Next item is update on the friend of the court remodel. Todd and Brian?
Yeah. The other question came, as far as that remodel goes, of moving that counter up to where the glass doors are currently to gain more space. The problem we have with that is it's pretty much identical to what's downstairs. That's happening with traffic and Tricor. If you go down on the first floor, you'll see that traffic has a small lobby and then their service desk, where Tricor at the time of the remodel wanted to save room and decided to put that service desk on that corridor, right up against the corridor, which resembles what the question was up on in FOC, put the service desk right next to the corridor. Probably have that, there's so many hard surfaces there that it's almost impossible to understand or hear anybody trying to talk through these talk-throughs. To add with COVID, there could be some extra form of protection in front of them or whatever, but it makes it very difficult to talk to. Down the first floor, it's been on our project list for I don't know how long to try and come up with some kind of baffling system to take away all that echo and banging around. So as far as FOC, I would keep it back where it was. Let them retain that little lobby area if we have seating in there or not. I got no problem with that, but I think they need that separation from that hard surface corridor. Or we're going to be in the same issue we are downstairs.
Okay, and you're also planning beyond COVID. I mean, some of the things you're.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, right now, this basically has a talk through, which I believe will be protection enough. But it still makes it very difficult to hear. And you can ask the employees down in Tricor, it's like having your head in a trash can and somebody that's hitting with a bat. So I wouldn't recommend that. The other issues, with the glass and that, and it's like, do you want me to get some kind of quote on glass, bulletproof, bullet resistant glass for that project? I do know that.
Let's go back to the original. Let's go back to the original design first. You sent us all an email, and I appreciate that with your thoughts on that. And I guess I'll defer to Commissioner Meeks. That was kind of your idea. Did Todd's explanation tell you that you're okay with it?
Well, I want to ask one question. I did ask a question about what was behind in that room, a closet. And I was wondering, why would a closet be right there when we can take that out? We need space. But we can also get a cabinet and put the supplies somewhere else other than have a closet right there. And I think that's a more valuable space that we could use right there. But one of the things I did ask a question. I says, what's in this room right here? You said a closet that we have supplies. So I'd be like, couldn't that be somewhere else in a locked cabinet somewhere? If it had to be. I mean, I'm thinking about utilizing the maximum amount of air we can, space we need. So you did justify why you need the seating. Now, why do we need the closets there?
Well, I mean, as far as the lobby, we can make that lobby small. I mean, we can move our original up some.
Yeah.
We still want to give them that barrier in between there and the corridor.
Okay.
I mean, so they can pick up some space there, and that would be, I mean, space is a premium in the courthouse. It's everybody's working with their own means because everything is taken. So there is a little bit. We can fudge a little bit. We don't have to per se have seating. They could step out into the lobby.
Well, it's okay with me. It's okay with me the way that it was originally planned. That's okay. But I'm just kind of coming at it, kind of thinking out of the box. Okay, we need that space. We need that closet. I mean, whether that closet had to be there, we need valuable space up front.
Right. And we can talk to Todd too and see if that would be.
No, we're in talking phases at that point in designing phases. Maybe my idea at that point won't work. I'm okay with that, but I'm just kind of putting my input in.
All right. Yeah.
some kind of other ways of looking at things.
Nope, I appreciate it.
Okay,
Okay.
if I can hear from the other two commissioners, what are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I think, yeah, now thinking about it, Friends of the Court needs a little bit of privacy when they're talking. You don't want to be in the hall. So I'm good with keeping the previous plans, and they can just ask the people there if they can move the closet, if they need it or not. That's just another, like Don said, outside the box thinking. If we're doing construction now, let's look at it. But if it's needed, let's keep it there.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, ask them. Maybe they never thought about it. But I'm fine with everything so far.
Okay, thank you. How about
You broke up, Jim. What did you say?
Commissioner Hugel? What are your thoughts? Can you hear me?
He's playing a game.
I got cut off. I'm sorry. I'm perfectly okay with it.
okay.
Okay,
You say you're playing a game of poker. Okay, yeah, right.
well, Don, thanks for your input, and I'm glad you're thinking outside the box, but we'll stick with the original.
Well, I'm okay with the original. I'm just kind of thinking that we can probably put that closet somewhere else, or I'm just thinking that we need that room.
Todd, is that your closet?
No, I don't think it is. I think they had, they got some paper products and that in there, forms and that they were keeping. But we can look at it. I can get with Tom and see, you know, if he believes that that would be usable space for us to open up for some kind of filing or some sort, and see where it goes. I mean, it's not a big deal. We can knock anything down.
Okay, great. All right.
But we want to keep in mind too, that if we go back to any of the ballistic issues, that's just more area that we might have to contend with as far as that goes. I know as far as the sheeting goes, you know, for a level 3, which pretty much ranges from a 9 mil to maybe a 44. And it doesn't say it will stop the bullet, but it won't create great harm to somebody. You might have sore body memory, but those sheets run, you know, around $750 for like a 4x8 sheet. So that gives you an idea of where we would be at. That's not counting glass, so that's something else we'll have to look at. If we can get the job, I know how much material is available during COVID. I know a lot of stuff is kind of tough to get right now, but.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Anything else from the commissioners for Todd?
Well, we did discuss about, since we're tearing down walls, about the one wall where that office is unused, that is kind of removable. I don't know how it's put up, but I don't think it's attached at the front, top, or the bottom. But if we would tear that down now instead of maybe at a later date.
Yeah, there's one that would come down first, one that's actually in between the two different divisions of FOC, which gave us the whole master plan for the layout. The other wall that you're talking about is the wall that would be east, that goes into a couple unused offices there that is in Tom's area, which we could take down any time. I'm not sure I quite have a grasp on what Tom is thinking with that area. But taking those down, yeah, I mean, if we're taking stuff down, it'd be good to take it down now. There's a little more ventilation issues with that because of those two offices that are up against that wall. But certainly it's not, it's something that's doable. Once you get in there, you rather just go ahead and get it. But I can speak with Tom too and try to get an idea of what he's thinking there.
Okay, thank you.
And if I recall, terminology is partition wall, correct, Todd?
Yeah, it's their first attempt at it years ago. I mean, they're solid. They're solid.
Okay, great.
Mr. Chair. So at this point, we've got consensus on the preferred design. I just want to make sure with the admin committee, there's a desire for us to walk that design to the court staff to seek input, ideally from the court security committee. My plan is to work with Carrie, who is on this call, to have the design reviewed by the team over at the court. Once that review is complete, assuming there's no substantial changes, I'll then work with Todd to implement a construction schedule. Does that sound like a decent path forward?
Yeah, I believe that's very much appropriate. The only thing I would ask is that when you come up with your final, just shoot it to us, just for information.
Not a problem.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Todd. Appreciate your input and your time. You guys, good job.
You folks have a good day.
You too.
Need me for anything? See you later.
Next on the agenda is a court update with Carrie Smetanka-Haney. Carrie?
Everyone. And just on a note, I appreciate all of your efforts on the FOC remodel. That is definitely an area that could very much use some tender love and care. So they appreciate it, I know, up there. So we just wanted to kind of update the last time that I was with you all to present. We talked about jury selection issues. We've been doing a lot of work on that over the past, multiple weeks. It seems like a couple of us live and breathe it right now. And we've done, so we were able to do some analysis and actually look at the space in the Niles building, which the last time I was there was, quite frankly, so just so we're all kind of aware of what we're talking about, the north end of the building where what is now DHHS was previously housed was last time I was there, a lot of office space that had many, many walls up and a lot of stuff. Just, it was kind of a storage catch-all area. I was unaware that it had been renovated in the past few years to basically be a South County EOC option. And so there's a lot of open space in that area now, where the last thing a lot of us knew about was just this kind of catch-all area. So we took a harder look at that this week, and I'm actually really happy to say I think that would work out very, very well for jury selections for us for the larger pools that we need. So it does still mean some technology costs. So when in speaking with IS, the needs would mean some wire pull, which maintenance has said that they would be able and willing to do. And then still the same technology things that we were looking at purchasing. So the audio visual equipment, some of the access points, like wireless access points, need to be updated down there and whatnot. But it would still be around the same amount of money. We would still need to have an additional part-time sheriff's deputy to be down there to do some wanding, because we don't have the security components that we do at the south end of the building up there. So what we would do is just basically use the north end of the building as jury selection central and then move them to the courtroom as necessary. And we could even conduct St. Joe's selections there as well. So I think this is an excellent option. I'm very excited to say that also saves us a lot of leasing money that we were really hoping to not have to spend. So, but we were working on it. I tell you, I had two people literally on a driving tour of the county looking for vacant spaces or convention centers over the past few weeks. So this is a huge bonus for us. Likely we could, depending on when I know you all had approved kind of a general idea. And so if we need a resolution for the final amount, we will get that taken care of, so we can actually go ahead and purchase the technology equipment and have that up and running here. I think we could actually make felony trials happen sooner than we were expecting at this point in time. So hopefully towards the end of next month.
Question?
Yes.
Was that grant money or CARES Act money that was going to fund that?
That was, I think we're having a question as it may relate to the COVID-19 contingency funds, because unfortunately the federal grant was already provided to the sheriff's department. And so the court cannot apply for that money as it would relate to technology costs. So it
Okay,
would
so
be a
we're
separate.
taking it out of the county contingency fund then?
I believe, and I think that's just a final workout that Brian and I need to have with the finance department as to where that would come from.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's it. I just as a general update, I know I've been getting questions a lot over what phase we're in. So I'll just give you a brief rundown. We're still in phase 2. We have not been approved to move to phase 3 yet by the health department. The last that Nikki and I spoke, we might be looking at sometime after Labor Day to be able to move into phase 3, but we're all kind of waiting a little bit to see what happens with schools. As to if we see a spike. I know we've been up and down, as I'm sure you all know. And so we really need to be at kind of a flattening before we can move to a next less restrictive phase.
Question?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were under the guidance of the state court administrator. I thought they were setting guidelines and you were going by that. Now you
Correct.
said.
Yeah, part of those guidelines is that were approved by the health department to move forward based on the numbers in the county. So they attest to the fact that we've been at least a 14-day decrease trend in numbers. And we have just not been there yet. Our previous expectation was to be there in July because in June, May and June, things were looking really good. That has obviously not happened just based on the county's numbers. So it's a 2-part process. We have to be approved by the health department based on our numbers. And then once that's attested to, then the state court administrator's office approves us to move into a less restrictive phase.
Okay, so the phase number doesn't come from the state court administrator then?
It does. And everybody's in different phases, right? So it gets very confusing, but we're in a 4-phase process. 3 would mean more public in the building, but it's still not open to the general public. Phase 4 is, return to normal business operations. And per the state court administrator's guidelines, that is not until the national pandemic is declared no longer a pandemic, basically. So we're not really sure when that's going to happen across the state. So most courts are probably going to end up in phase 3 for a significant period of time, which continues to include triaging folks before they come in the building, making sure their health screenings are conducted and that they're actually supposed to be there. And also limiting the in-person functions that we have. So phase 3 is a broadening of the in-person proceedings, but it's not a full-fledged reopening.
Okay, great. Thanks, Carrie. Now on the north entrance, that's not a secure entrance now. I think you use just your fobs to get in. I know you talked about it, but I guess clarify it a little bit more for me. What do we need at that north entrance to adequately screen those people before they come in the building and assemble?
Sure. So I consulted with both our court security supervisor, Mr. Lull, and then also with Chuck again today, just as to kind of how that would work. And what we envision is basically just kind of what we had planned for an offsite jury selection and moving it to the north side. So we would have a deputy there to do the physical screening. It would mean wanding because we don't have, multiple x-ray machines in the building, but they would wand the individual. We would have a staff there to do the health screening. And then they would be moved into, so basically we would stop them. If you're familiar with the north end of the building, that door is a public door because it access to the health department. There is a room basically right to the right when you walk in there that attaches to that large open space. So there's kind of like an entry vestibule, I guess, if you will, before you get into the actual EOC site. So we would be able to stop them right there and then direct them into that area for jury check-in.
Clarify this for me. There is a north door, totally north, and then
Correct.
There is a northern door on the west side of the building. Which
Yes.
door are you talking about?
We're talking about the very north door. I think it's door number 12, which I didn't even know was a door number until just this week. So, but the very north end of the door, because we're still that middle door, the northwest door is still locked because we don't have anybody else in that area right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners?
I have none.
Okay, continue, Gary.
Thank you. I'll hang tight for Paul's next issue if there's any questions from us.
Thank you. Okay, great. Then the next item on the agenda is delinquency juveniles neglect and abuse contract bid. Paul and Brian.
Thank you. So these are two existing contracts that are up for a new term at the end of this year. The last time that these were actually placed up for bid was in 2014. I think the court has been, the court is seeking some improvements in at least one of these contracts. The juvenile delinquency, as I understand it from the court's perspective, they've been relatively satisfied with the performance of those group of attorneys. However, it's ripe for a bidding process at this point. The second contract is, again, the protective proceedings, which are children that are subject to the jurisdiction of the court due to abuse or neglect. There have been some concerns from the court about, the representation by those attorneys on the contract, and the court wants to improve representation. There's going to be some changes made to the contracts to be sure that these issues are addressed going forward. It also, the court wants to incorporate the social worker, the parent attorney social worker position that was referenced again in the first matter we talked about. These contracts are they're in a work group right now involving Carrie and Brian in the trial court and me and I believe one or two other folks. And we plan to have these, I guess, publicized in a much wider area to be bid. Because up to this point, there's really just been one group of local attorneys that have bid on this contract. The intention is to cast a wide net and see, hopefully that can aid in increasing the level of representation. So these are existing contracts that are going to be some revisions and then widely disseminated through the bidding process.
Okay, and I believe, Paul, that didn't we receive a copy of the contracts via email?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So I wanted Paul here today to update you all on this. The last time this was bid was 2014. I anticipate that this is going to raise some eyebrows from some who have been in part of this contract for the last 6 years. I anticipate that some of you may get a phone call or an email, and I just wanted you all to be aware of what the logic is for why we're getting this thing back out to bid. It's been once renewed, and then I think it's just reasonable to get the thing out to bid. That's not to say that the current vendors cannot bid it. It's not to say that the current vendors won't end up being the successful bidder. We're simply trying to ensure that we're getting the very best pricing.
Okay, thanks for that, Brian. And also,
Yep.
corporate counsel reviews all these contracts before they're signed and approved, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the corporate counsel has been involved in the work group discussions. We've tried to keep the work group somewhat broad, so we have Paul, Carrie at the table, myself, Shelley, corporate counsel, and then we actually have had Judge Berger sit in on the conversations.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Anything from
You're
the
welcome,
committee?
sir.
Anything from the commissioners? Any questions?
Hello, excuse me, I just wanted to see who this.
And I guess we move forward with that.
Mr. Chair, we have a special visitor, Commissioner Yarborough, just walked in.
Hello.
She's back in the building.
Yes, I got my computer worked out.
Oh, Manny.
How are you all?
I'm well, how are you, man?
Good, good. I'm on my way back. I'm on my
Okay,
way
we'll
back.
move to the next item on our agenda, which is the attorney contract.
Thank you. The last contract that I was going to be discussing is, we call it a panel agreement. Really, the structure of our office, we have 17 full-time attorneys, me included, and due to case number, the number of cases that an attorney should handle within a year, et cetera, severity of cases, and conflicts of interest, which are very common, we have two other groups of attorneys that assist us with these cases, ensuring high-level representation. The second group is a contract conflict group of attorneys. There's just two of them. This panel agreement represents the sort of third layer of protection to be sure that we have a broad number, a large number of competent local attorneys that are capable of handling any type of case from a misdemeanor all the way to a murder. This panel agreement basically is a document that the attorney signs and agrees to abide by all MIDC standards. They will agree to follow our policies for investigations and expert requests, and they agree to be paid an MIDC approved rate, hourly rate for their work, which they document according to the approved rates by MIDC, and then they essentially are paid at the end of the case for the hourly work that they have performed. This contract, it does have a couple of revisions from the previous FY20 contract that we used. Those are mainly revisions to include the, I think the RAND certification and a couple of tweaks to be sure we're in compliance with MIDC standards.
Okay, just how many attorneys are we talking about here on contract?
So the first group, there are 2 annual contracts. This particular contract, we have between 14 and 17, depending upon the response for the year. I anticipate around 15 to 16 attorneys.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, any questions? And again, I believe we did receive this contract as well in an email.
You broke up a little bit, Jim.
Are there any changes in the contract from the previous one to this one that we should know about? Or, I mean, I know you went through it, but I mean, specifically.
No, the only changes made to this contract from last year for our panel attorneys are to be sure that they are following our internal policies for investigation requests. So when we either use an in-house or a private investigator, and also expert witness requests, because we needed to shore up our end as far as if, say we deny an expert request because it's not it doesn't fall within approved MIDC rates. We can only pay an expert the amount of money that MIDC tells us we can pay them, and so we have to indicate and have these attorneys agree that any expert or investigator they request is at the rates only approved by MIDC. That was basically the changes made to this one.
Any other questions? Hey, sounds good. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate your time and your explanation.
Thank you.
Okay, Brian, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is back on your initial topic, but while the committee's been meeting, I received an email from Commissioner Freeling. I'm just going to read it to the group. She notes that she's been reviewing the FOC remodel. She noticed that the debt service counter has a window and a pass-through hole. Can we please make sure that in the finished design that Buildings and Grounds includes a speaker or portal for staff to speak with those who come to the counter? We have had an issue with the South County building with the remodel that happened to the clerk's office that has been a point of discussion for a couple of years. At this location, there was currently no speaker box and the service counter was not wheelchair friendly. It is much more cost effective to deal with these design needs for FOC before rather than after we are too far down the path. That's the email that I received from Commissioner Freeling.
Okay, thank you. And very good points too, by the way. I recall that discussion with the clerk. So good observations.
Mr. Chair, would it make sense for me to forward this to Todd and just say that admin was engaged on the following topic and there's general support to make sure that these items are covered in the final design?
Unless I hear anything from the other commissioners, yes, by all means.
Okay.
Okay with me. Okay.
Okay, Paul, do you have anything else for us?
No, thank you.
Brian, you have anything?
No, sir.
Gary?
Sorry, no, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you all for showing up. Annette or Jennifer, I would now refer to public comments on our agenda. We'll accept public comments at this time. Hey, is there any public even watching?
Actually, you have two watching now. I think I'm one of them, so I don't really count. And it does. I have asked 3 times about public comments, and I don't see any from the other person. So I think you're good. So I'm going to close public comments.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Jim,
Yes, sir.
are we supposed to vote on any of the resolutions? Because we haven't voted on anything since we started. Or are we just discussing that right now?
Normally, Mike, when those come through, we would just discuss them, sign them, and then they go on through. But because we're not meeting in person, we're just sending them on through.
You're signing them. It just has my little AC after it.
There you go. Yeah, and as far as the contracts go, I mean, that's between corporate counsel, Brian and Paul. We just okay it and move on. Anything else from the committee? Nope. Okay, then hearing nothing else, this meeting is adjourned.
See you, everybody.